There you go, that's
all
what matters.
So, okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna talk about working sphere of influence. And in terms of working your sphere of influence, what I'm gonna show you is really, it's a math problem. Most people approach it as a people problem.
Yeah.
But really, if you'll think of it as a math problem, then you're gonna be okay. So, so I'm gonna start actually by showing a video.
Okay.
Looks like we have 2 people online now. But, so I'm gonna start by showing you guys a video, and then we'll talk about it. So, why I say that is I'm gonna show you this video, and it's more of kind of a comedy video thing, but you're gonna think I'm doing math the way that this video does it. So, all right, let me get the screen down here. The other thing while this is getting booted up, the screen and stuff here, is of everything that I teach, this class, so you guys are the smart ones for being here. This class in particular, if you will do the things that I'm going to teach you, so I'm going to give you 4 protocols today. If you'll do those 4, you will be successful. It is 100% guaranteed because it's a math problem. So now I say that, and then I'm going to show you this video. What? So, okay, so let me get the screen share going here. Show this video real fast. We'll talk about it. Okay.
I figure 75% to you, Panma, and 25% divided between the 5 of us. Yida, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the 5 of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pa. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. Let me rub this out here. And now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
No, you're wrong, Billy. Now, I'm a pretty good mathematician. Now, 5 into 25, 5 won't go into 2, will it?
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we bring it down here. Now, 5 into 20 goes 4 times. There you are. 5 into 25, 14.
No, look, Pa. Let me prove it to you now by multiplication. 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25.
Well, I'm surprised you're learning.
Huh?
I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 25. That's it.
No, look, Ma. Look, you're wrong there because I'll prove it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14. There. Now I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you are. Better brush up, Billy. I don't want to see you boys cheated.
All right. Now, we'll come back to that in just a minute. We'll talk about we'll talk about how that applies here in just a minute. So, kind of just a funny video to start off with because we're going to talk about math today, and a lot of times people don't like math, but important to remember that well, in fact, let me say it this way. You guys are going to think, at one point, you're going to think I'm doing Ma and Pa kettle math, although I'm not, okay? So now, here's where we're going to start though. So we're going to talk about sphere of influence, but where we want to start off with is I first want to make sure that you guys understand a couple of other things here. That marker's not looking too good, so let's see if this will be better. Not much. That didn't work much better. Maybe it's the board, not the marker, I don't know.
Gotta be one in there.
Yeah, I know. One of them's gotta work here, let's see. Okay, so we're gonna talk about basically 3 different groups of people real fast. Yeah, it must be I don't know. Or I just need to throw every marker away.
The orange and the black look good over there.
Yeah, that's true.
The kettle's chalk.
Do what?
You need the kettle's chalk.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Mom and Pop Kettle's chalk. Okay, so we're gonna run through 3 different groups of people. 2 of them we're gonna do real fast. The third is gonna be our SOI that we're gonna talk about. So the first group we're gonna talk about is a client. What makes somebody a client? A client is, now you learned in real estate school what makes somebody a client, and that's not what we're gonna talk about here today. Today what we're gonna talk about is basically what makes someone a client so that you can know you're gonna get paid. That's how I'm gonna talk about a client today, okay? So there's the first thing, in fact, let me just ask you guys, what would make somebody a client? Now keep in mind, we're gonna include what the division would say, but we're gonna do a little bit more than even that. So what would make someone a client?
They sign up by a broker agreement.
Okay, good. So typically, here's how I'm gonna write it down, is that they're committed to working exclusively with you, okay? The way they demonstrate being committed to working exclusively with you is that they're gonna sign either a listing agreement or a buyer agreement, right? So as soon as they sign either the listing agreement or the buyer broker, that's them demonstrating they're committed to working exclusively with you. Okay, good. What else would make somebody a client? There's 4 things that we're gonna talk about. And each one gets a little harder, so I probably will have to help you, which is okay. Anybody on Zoom? We got 3. One more time, Michael.
An appointment.
Okay, good. So that's gonna be actually down here is number 4. So he said an appointment. So I'm gonna actually call it, number 4 is they have to be tethered. Tethered means tied to, and the way that we get tied to our clients is actually not through the buyer broker or the listing agreement, it's actually through an appointment. So one of the things that I always say is you can't have a client without having an appointment. So if you don't have an appointment set with somebody, I would say, now keep in mind, this is my definition, not the Division of Real Estate's definition. My definition is they're not a client if you don't have an appointment. So every time you go on an appointment with a client, you should schedule your next appointment. Before you leave, you should schedule your next appointment. In fact, just to kind of demonstrate this, so Colby and I met actually this morning, right? What did we do right before you left my office? I scheduled the next appointment that I'm going to meet with him. See, one of the things that I've learned is the way you have people not fall through the cracks, or said another way, not go and use a different agent than outside of you, is you don't ever leave an appointment with them without scheduling the next appointment. If you always have an appointment scheduled with people, it is very unlikely they're going to leave you to go to some other agent. So that's how we want to do that. Good. What else do we have to do? What else would somebody have to have, do, or be to be a client?
Some as far as like just like making contact with them, like taking a phone call or meeting with them. I mean, I guess that would be an appointment.
Yeah, I'd say that. I'd throw that one under appointment. Okay, so the next one is I'm gonna write it down differently than what I'll tell you if you're taking notes, but I'm gonna write it down as a need. So here's how I would say it: is they have to have clear and present needs that can be met. So first they have to be committed to working exclusively with you. Then they have to have clear and present needs that can be met. So basically what that means is they have to be clear about what it is they want. It has to be something that is realistic, and that so they can be met. So clear and present needs that can be met. And then the last of these is now. They have to be committed to buying or selling now. That's what makes somebody a client, is they're committed to buying or selling now. Now let me define now, because now doesn't mean tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Now means to me is if it's a buyer of a house and we find a property that meets their needs, they'll write the offer. If it's a seller and they say we're gonna list our house and this is the price we want, and we get an offer at that price, they'll accept it, not say, oh, that's great that we got that offer, but now let's wait for 3 months to accept it. That's not now, okay? So they have to be committed to working exclusively with you, have clear and present needs that can be met, they're committed to buying or selling now, and they're tethered to you, meaning you have an appointment with them, okay? So that's what's gonna make somebody a client. Now, the next we're gonna talk about is what makes somebody a prospect. And a prospect you could think of as being a lead, okay? Somebody that's just a lead. Now, what's gonna make someone a prospect or a lead is that they are deficient in one or more of these. So they're missing at least one of these. So you go knock on somebody's door, are they committed to working exclusively with you? No. Do they have clear and present needs that can be met? Maybe, we just might not know. Are they committed to buying or selling now? Maybe, we don't know. And do you have an appointment? No. So that's would make, when you're prospecting, which is why I call this, their prospects, is because we are still prospecting them, meaning trying to get them to become a client. We're trying to get these people that we prospect to, or these leads, to be committed to working exclusively with me, to find out if they have clear and present needs that can be met, to find out if they're ready to do it now, and then to set an appointment with them. Once we do that, they move from this prospect or lead category into being in contact. So now, with that being said, let's say that where they're, and remember that a prospect is deficient in one or more of these. So if they were missing the part, maybe they are committed to working exclusively with you, have clear and present needs that can be met, they're committed to buying or selling now, but you don't have an appointment with them. In that case, I'm saying they're not a client, they're a prospect. Now again, I always want to be really clear, like, as far as the division's concerned, if you have a buyer broker signed or a listing agreement signed, they're your client. Even though I'm saying, for the fact of getting paid, if you don't have an appointment, you don't have a client, you have a prospect. So I just always want to be really clear so that somebody doesn't one day get in trouble with the division and go, no, Russ taught this class and he said that it didn't matter if you didn't have an appointment, they weren't a client. Like, I always got to be real clear so that the division doesn't come back on me. Okay, so if that's true, and the way that we manage our clients is through appointments, how would we manage our leads or prospects? Because we're going to say, for example, they say they're going to work with you, they have clear and present needs that can be met, and they're ready to buy now or sell now, but you don't have an appointment with them. And let's say you don't have the buyer broker or listing agreement signed, but they say they're committed, because it is, which by the way, it is possible for somebody to be committed to using you and not have signed an agreement. It's also possible for somebody to not be committed to working exclusively with you and have signed an agreement. So, how would we manage these people? Any thoughts?
Manage as far as like trying to gain more information?
Well, because remember, what we're trying to do is get them to become this. So if I'm missing one of these things, and let's just say that it's the appointment that I'm missing, how would I manage them to try to get them to become a client?
Schedule an appointment with them?
Good. So how often should we try to do that until it happens? Or at minimum. Let's say at minimum, because you could do it more. But.
Like once a week?
Yeah, good. So the way we're going to manage leads is you should contact them, so it's through contact, one time per week until they become a client, or they move over to this column, which we'll talk about, or you drop them. Okay, so think of it that way, is when you're prospecting, you then get leads. Those leads, you should be contacting them at least once a week until they either become a client, meaning they meet these 4 criteria, or we move them over to this category, which is what we're going to spend the rest of the day talking about, or you just drop them. Okay? And so the last category is what I call the suspects, or really your SOI. Okay? So this is going to be our SOI. And what we're going to talk about for the rest of the class is how do we manage these people in our sphere of influence? And how do we do it in a way that will guarantee us to generate an income, which I'm going to run the numbers with you guys and I'm going to show you, that you can easily make over $200,000 a year if you'll just do these 4 things. So, and I will give you the guarantee that I have never had anybody do these 4 things and not make over $200,000 a year. And probably I shouldn't say 200,000, because if you go back 15 years ago when I was teaching this, I probably would have said that you'll make over 100,000. But in today's numbers, you're gonna make over 200,000. I should just say a number of transactions. So you're gonna do somewhere around 30 transactions, is probably what I should say. So really, that's probably more like 300,000 a year, but I don't wanna get you guys too excited, so.
So excited though.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we do it? So the first thing, the first protocol that we're gonna talk about is first we have to have a discussion, and we're gonna talk about basically what it means to we're gonna talk about the difference between an open system and a closed system. Because the problem that most people have, most agents, most real estate agents will approach working their sphere of influence as a people problem, and they approach it in an open system rather than a closed system. And what happens is when we approach it as an open system, it creates a problem. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I were to just take a map, so if I just got a map, and let's say we did it for all of Salt Lake County, and I drew a circle on that map, and it would probably have to be a significant size, like meaning probably Salt Lake County. What are the chances that any person, so again, assume this is a map, I just drew a circle on it, what are the odds that somebody within that area is going to move within the next year? Any idea?
100% probably.
100%? So every single one of those people?
Oh, I thought you were saying what are the chances that one
Yeah, no,
person-
yeah, sorry, I said that wrong. So yeah, you're right. There's 100% chance someone will.
Yeah.
But what percentage, so that's how I'll say it. What percentage of the people in that circle are going to move within the next year?
7%.
Yeah, so he's been to class before.
I'm gonna guess 10.
Okay, so yeah, so really though, and this is where we're gonna do some mom pot kettle math here in a minute, but the answer is 7%, okay? So just, if you look at like nationwide, the number of people that are going to move ends up being 7% in terms of buyers and sellers. Now, according to the Census Bureau, the number is actually 12%. But that includes renters. So if you factor out the renters, then it ends up being 7%. So there's a 7% chance. So now, what that means is if I knocked on 100 doors, what that means is 93 people are going to not be doing anything real estate related, and that 7 will do something real estate related. Now, one of the things that I remember when I first got started as an agent for you guys that are on Zoom, I did forget to say, if you'll throw your first and last name in the chat box, just so I have a record of who was in class, I would appreciate it. So that if you do get in trouble with the division on this, I can say, no, I have proof, they were in class and I said. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so basically what that means is this though. So if you were to take, and now remember, what we're talking about right now is we're going to talk about protocol number 1, and protocol number 1 is we're talking about the difference between an open system and a closed system. Okay. Now, so what happened when I first got my real estate license? I went and I talked to my manager at the office, my broker, and I said, okay, tell me what to do in order to get my real estate career going. And he gave me and all this stuff. And then what he told me though along the way is he said something like this: if you talk to 100 people, you should end up with, so let me do it over here. If you talk to 100 people, he said you should end up with 10 leads, and from those 10 leads, you should get 1 transaction, okay? Which, that actually sounds pretty good. And so what I did is I wanted to do 50 transactions in a year. So what I actually did was talk to 250 people every week. So I was doing 250 people, 50 people a day times 5 days, it was 250 people a week. I said, or based on this, what he said here, that meant I should have gotten 25 leads every week, And then from that, based on these numbers, I should have done 2.5 transactions per year, or sorry, per week, really, I guess, right? Because 250 should have been 25 leads to 2.5 transactions, which multiply that by 50 weeks, and we'll just round it to be, easy math. I should have been doing 100 transactions a year. I was not anywhere close to that. So I was frustrated because I had heard, and so here's part of the problem, is part of what we're talking about today. In real estate, we use a lot of anecdotal information, meaning we tell a lot of stories that sound really good, but they aren't necessarily empirical data. Empirical data would be like scientific proof that you could actually do it. This was an example of anecdotal data, but it's very common throughout real estate for you to hear people say, if you talk to 100 people, you should get 10 leads that should turn into 1 transaction. That sounds great, but I actually haven't seen it. Now, let me give you the reverse side of this though. Brian Burnett, who's our top agent down in St. George, do you know how many, have you gone and listened to him prospect before?
No.
Oh, I thought you did for some reason. Okay, do you know how many contacts he does a day?
I don't.
I'm not 100% sure of this anymore, I used to know, but essentially he does 250 contacts a day, which would equate to 250 a week, but he makes $3 million, so he's doing more than 2.5, like if he talks to 250 people, he's doing more than 2.5 transactions per week. So, well, actually that might be, this might be real for him actually, because if you times that, 100 transactions times 30,000, that's probably 3 million, isn't it?
What are you saying?
Although
250 by 2.5?
No, just do 100 transactions. If you were doing 100 transactions and you paid $30,000 per transaction, it's probably 3 million.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I can do that. But
So this works for him, but he's the only person in our company that I could probably tell you this that would equate to he does 50 contacts a day and does 100 transactions a year. I don't know exactly how many transactions, but here's my point.
you said 50. Oh, there's a 250 a day. I was like,
No, not a day, not a day.
I was gonna go crazy.
Per
I was
week.
like, I just gonna give up now.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, there's no way. And I would agree, not possible. Yeah, 50 a day. I think he does
Okay.
50 a day,
That
so
sounds
250 a week.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay,
Do 60, then I can make 4 million. Right?
then what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
60. Okay.
Yeah, do that. Okay, so now here's the thing. This sounds good, but let me show you what the problem with it is. So, here, because remember, we're still talking about the difference between an open system and a closed system, okay? In an open system, which is what this is, when you're prospecting in the general public, you're prospecting in an open system. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and in fact, I would encourage you to do that. Aubrey goes door knocking, how many times a week do you go?
I try to stay around 4 or 5.
I didn't say how many do you try to do.
Oh,
How many do you-
okay. I was like 4.
Okay, so he's 4 days a week door knocking. Now, you should do that, because remember what we're talking about. Think of this as a funnel. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go out and prospect, and we're gonna get people that are gonna become leads that we're gonna stay in touch with once a week until they either become a client, or we drop them, or we move them into what I'm calling your sphere of influence here. So you're gonna move them into this group here, and we're gonna talk more about that in just a minute. But the problem with an open system, of prospecting in an open system, which, again, I wanna make sure I'm saying this, you want to do that. We want to prospect in the open system. You should keep door knocking. But in addition to the door knocking, we want to then do this in a coherent fashion. We want to make sure that it all fits together. And so what we want to do is you get the lead from door knocking, you stay in touch with them once a week until they become a client, or you figure out that maybe they are committed to working with you, they have clear and present needs, but they're just not ready now. Well, I don't want to call that person, somebody says to you when you're door knocking, yeah, we want to sell our house next year and we would love to talk to you about it. Great, so you do. Do you want to call that person every week for a year? Well, no, you might want to, but what's going to happen if
They're annoyed and they'll be like, just ignore you.
Yeah, they're all of a sudden going to be like, never mind, we're not using you. Yeah, Aubrey, we already told you, we're a year out, so you don't need to call us every week. Like, we'll let you know if it changes, right? So in that scenario, they're not gonna be a client. I don't wanna call them every week. I also don't wanna drop them. So therefore, I'm gonna put them into this suspects category or the SOI section of what I'm gonna do. Now, from there then, what I wanna do is I wanna understand this, because here's the problem with this. This sounds good, but let me show you why it maybe is a little bit concerning and why we wanna have another way to do this besides just knocking on doors. Again, you should still, call or door knock, whatever, but here's the problem. This looks like what? For every 10 people that I talk to, I should get a transaction, or every 10 leads that I get. Let me show you the problem with that, because that's what it looks like. But here's what it actually looks like. If I go knock on your door and you tell me no, so I now go to the next door. So the chances were 1 out of 10 here, right? What are they now?
2 out of 10.
Okay, that's what we think it should be. And then if you said no,
3 out of 10.
you would think there's a 3 out of 10, and then 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 8, 9, and then bam, there's 10. Like, I should get that person, right? But that's the problem with us and not understanding how an open system works. Because in actuality, this is what it looks like. The chances are 1 out of 10 here. When I leave there and come to you, there's still 1 out of 10. And then when you tell me no and I go here, there's still 1 out of 10. Every single person that I talk to, all 100 people that I talk to, there is a 1 out of 10 or a 10% chance they're going to do something. Let me say that differently. And don't hear this as don't go knock on doors, but what the truth is there's a 90% chance he's gonna tell me no. And when I leave and come to you, there's a 90% chance you're gonna tell me no. And a 90% chance you're gonna tell me no. And it doesn't matter how many times I do it. Let me show you what I mean. How many sides to this dice?
6.
Okay, so if we were to pick a number, 1 out of 6, well, actually, let me even say it this way. So what are the odds that I would roll any of the numbers on here? 1 out of 6. So pick a number between 1 and 6. 8?
3.
Oh, I think you said 8. I'm like, what?
He's winning.
I'd be like, yeah.
You gotta, it's gonna stop.
Okay, 3. Okay, so 3.
It's gonna happen.
So what are the chances that when I roll this that I'm gonna get a 3? 1 out of 6, okay? So I roll it. I get a 1. So now we roll it again. What are the odds?
1 out of 6.
Yeah, see, they don't change. There's a 1 out of 6 chance.
One closer.
2.
We're getting closer.
Yeah, let's see what happens. So when I roll it again, 1 out of 6.
Oh!
Look at that.
Is that free,
All right, now we gotta. Now I gotta see if we can get 4. If we can get a 4. For you guys on Zoom.
Oh!
It didn't work. For you guys on Zoom, I rolled a 1, then a 2, then a 3. Just so you know. And then I did a 3 again. All right. So what are the odds that I'm going to get a 3 again? So I just
Really good.
what?
I said really good.
Well, I've just gotten a 3 twice in a row. So what are the odds?
1 out of 6.
Another 6.
Yep, 1 out of 6.
Guess
See?
what?
Oh! 3 times in a row.
We should go to Vegas.
Let's go to Wendover, Russ.
Class dismissed. I'm headed to Vegas. All right. So the thing is, they don't change based on the number of times I roll it. Which, by the way, that's why Vegas works. The reason Vegas works is the owners of those casinos understand odds, and they understand that the odds don't change based on the number of times you roll the dice. Now, with that being said, occasionally I'll get somebody that's a real math nerd in here, and so I do want to clarify. There is something in math called the regression towards the mean that does say the more times I roll this and I don't get it, that the odds of me getting it do go up. So that there is something called regression towards the mean. Here's the problem with that. I got to roll it like 100,000 times in order for that to play out, or maybe even more than 100,000. It might be 1,000,000 times. But so if I rolled this dice 1,000,000 times, what would the odds? How many times would the 3 come up? 1 out of 6. But here's the problem. Unless you're gonna go make 1,000,000 contacts in real estate every year, you can't rely on this 10-1 thing. That's the whole point, because that's what an open system looks like. Now, so the first protocol of working your sphere of influence, So, and the reason I call them protocols is a protocol is not a law, like laws were meant to be broken. It's a protocol. It's like a required condition. Think of it as like in a laboratory or something. It's like, this is our protocol. Protocol is a required condition. You have to do this, okay? So I gave to you guys this guarantee of you're gonna make over $200,000 a year if you'll follow these 4 things I'm gonna give you. But it's a protocol, meaning you gotta do it. You can't round the corners, okay? You gotta do it. Okay, so the first one is your group of people, this SOI has to be fixed in size. Okay? It has to be fixed in size. Which means it has to be a set number of people, okay? So what I'm gonna tell you is that the protocol is it has to be fixed in size. So just make sure you get that. It has to be fixed in size. The number I'm gonna tell you it should be is 200. So it should be 200 people, but the protocol is just fixed in size, which means it could be any number. But what I have learned for real estate is it needs to be let me say it this way. If you do less than that, it's gonna take longer, because that's the next piece of this. So let me give you even the next piece of this. So getting this to work is gonna look something like this. I just realized I left a key piece out here. In fact, I always wish I would have done it in this one line in a different color, so let me do it. Okay, so for you to get this to work, now remember I told you that I can guarantee you that it's gonna work, and I can guarantee you over $200,000 a year if you'll follow this protocol. The one caveat to that is it is gonna take 6 to 9 months before that happens, okay? You're gonna have to do these 4 things for 6 to 9 months, and then from that point on is where I can guarantee this 6-digit income, which is really a couple of $100,000 a year. But you gotta do this stuff for 6 to 9 months first, and then from that point on, it'll happen. Now, here's why. Well, actually, before I even tell you why. If this green line, it represents that money, what do you notice happens to it in the beginning?
It's flat.
Yeah, it's flat. So just keep in mind that what I found, so I have taught this class for many, many years. I have had a few people actually go do this. And notice that I said a few. Now, when I say a few, I'm being relative to the number of people I've taught, so I've had them. But the majority of the time, you're gonna leave this class excited and going, holy crap, I can see that would work. Like, it would really work, because it's a math problem. It's a math problem. Now, you're gonna see that, but and the reason I'm telling you this is don't give up. Keep that excitement when you leave, because it will work. It's just keep in mind that if this is 6 to 9 months, the first 3 to 4 months, it's gonna feel like nothing's happening. Like you're gonna be doing the work and you're gonna be like, I don't really see any results coming from this. And what I believe happens, and the reason I'm telling you this is so you won't do it, is what I believe happens is you leave here excited, you start to do this, and then a couple of months in, you notice, I haven't seen any results yet, so you quit. And the sad thing is you were getting really close to actually it working. So don't quit, stick with it. And if you'll stick with it, it will work. Because it's a math problem, and I'm gonna show you the math here in just a bit. But so now keep in mind with this, does anybody know how bamboo grows? Anybody know anything about bamboo and how it grows?
Fast it grows.
Yeah.
I knew it a little while back, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Okay. Anybody else have any ideas? Bamboo?
Grow like 3 feet a day or something.
So yeah, that's usually the answer I get, is it grows really, really fast, and it goes to 90 feet in a couple of weeks.
Took 5 years to get to that point.
Yeah, what people don't tell you is what Michael just said, is it takes 5 years before that actually happens. So, meaning that bamboo is planted for 5 years and nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden we see it go whoop, and we go, oh, it grows really fast. Well, it does, but not for 5 years. The first 5, now why? What is it doing? So Michael, what's it doing the first 5 years?
Setting up its foundation.
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, what's happening is it's building its root system. It's getting it in place so that it can grow that fast. So keep in mind, what I'm teaching you today is that same concept. Is it's going to feel like nothing's happening these first few months, but just recognize you're getting the root structure into place so that it can then take off. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get 4, 5 months down the road, maybe 6, I guess, if it's 6 to 9 months, and all of a sudden you're going to go, whoop, you're going to see this huge jump up. And every agent that I've worked with that has done this is exactly what happens. Is they get all of a sudden business just goes, takes off. Okay? So but the first thing that has to happen is it's got to be fixed in size. Okay? Now, so it's got to be fixed in size. And the number that I'm telling you, so having it be fixed in size is what makes it a closed system, which I didn't finish the closed system. So let's talk about the closed system. Okay, so we're going to do this same exercise again, only this time I have stickers here. And I'll do a better job of telling you guys on Zoom what we're rolling, but we're going to do the same thing. So the odds of me getting a 3 when I roll this are 1 out of 6, right? But we're going to change the rules of the game. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to roll it, and I got a 5. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blue sticker and I'm going to put it on the 5. Now what's going to happen is we're going to roll it again, and if I don't get a 3, but I end up with this blue sticker, anytime I roll it and I get a blue sticker, I get a free throw. That's the rules of the game, okay? So the rules of the game is now I get a free throw. So now what are the odds of me getting a 1 or a 3 when I roll it?
Still 1 out of 6, right?
Well, it's actually going to be 1 out of 5 now because we just took this one out of play.
Okay.
So my odds just increased. So now I roll it, we get a 1. So now I'm going to do the same thing. Because I didn't get a 3, I'm going to put a sticker on it. So now, if the sticker shows up, so if I get a 1 or a 5, I get a free throw. So I roll it, free throw. So that didn't count. So far, let's keep track of how many times I have to roll it to get a 3. And so far, we've rolled it twice. Now this is the 3rd time. So I got a 2. Put the sticker on it. Free throw. Yeah, it was almost done. Free throw. We've still only rolled 3 times. So now, it took me 3 times to get a 3. Okay, so let's keep going and see what happens. So there's a 4. So now I'm going to put a sticker on it. So now, I've only got the 6 and the 3 that are left exposed. So I'm either going to roll a 6 or a 3. Because everything else is a free throw. So you free throw. Free throw. Free throw, which keeps me in a 3.
Yeah.
Or not, no, not a 3, a 2. It was a 2. Okay, so there's the 6. So now I put the sticker on it. So now everything is covered but the 3. So now what are the odds? 100%. I either get a free throw so it didn't count, or I get the 3. So I could roll this and roll it, and it doesn't count until I get a 3. So notice, that's what happens in a closed system, is in this closed system, or making it fixed in size, what's going to happen is the more I do it, the better the odds get. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, so let me show you what that looks like, my experience. So when we took the map, and we had this map with 100,000 people or whatever, 200,000, 300,000 people in it, I'm saying there's a 7% chance. So if out of this 100 people there was a 7% chance, how many transactions does that equate to?
Say that again?
So if we had 100 people and there's a 7% chance, how many transactions does that equate to?
7.
Okay, so this is where I do mom and pop kettle math, and the answer is 14. That's why I had to show you that video. Now why? Why is it 14 and not 7? Because you would think it should be 7, Because
Because they might buy and sell.
Good, that's right. Is because that's why I actually emphasize the word how many transactions are there. Because every transaction gets a buy sell side and a sell side. So it becomes, we double count them in essence. So there's 14 potential transactions out of this. Now, so that's all fine and dandy, but basically that still means 7%. So if I take though this same group here now and we change it from an open system to a closed system, now my chances of getting a deal actually go to 60% instead of 7%. And the reason is because of what I just showed you with this rolling the dice, is the more times I rolled it, the odds went up that I was gonna get the 3. Well, if you do this the way that we're gonna talk about it here, and the first protocol is, it has to be fixed in size. So now let me, again, just reinforce what I said here. I'm saying to you the number is 200 that you should have. Once it matures, which I would define maturing at being this line right here, once you hit the point that this has ramped up, you could change this number to anything you want it to be. But in order for it to happen the fastest, do it with 200. Because if you have less, if you did it with 100 people, all you're doing is instead of it taking 6 to 9 months, it might be a year to 18 months. If you tried to do it with 500 people, it probably just won't work. So the reason is, and I'll show you why the reason I've landed on 200 is I've just found that 200 is a number that's realistic that you can do and that it won't overwhelm you. If you tried to do it with 500, it would overwhelm you to the point that you'd be like, I'm just not gonna do it. So that's why I say start with 200. Once you hit this point here where, yeah, you can see I'm gonna make a ton of money from this. If you wanna change this number, go ahead. You don't have to. But you might want to change it down to 100 or 150, or you might want to say I want it to be 300. I have just found above 300, people just end up not doing it at all. So 200 seems to be the sweet spot to get it up and running. Because if you do less, it extends this out further. You're going to be longer before you make money. If you do too many more than this, you'll get overwhelmed and you just won't do it at all. So that's why I say that. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second piece of this then. The second protocol of this is, so now let's say we've identified and we've got 200 people. Now, which by the way, for me, the way that I used to train this years ago was that you started basically at 0, or no, sorry, I said that wrong. I said it backwards. I used to train it as you have to start at 200, meaning like if you had to go get a phone book and tear out all the Andersons and you had 200 people named Anderson in there, that's how you started it. Like you had to have 200. I realized though over time that that actually wasn't very efficient. And so what I now say is ramp it up. So start with whatever you've got. So to some extent, go through your cell phone and like, who are the people who are in my cell phone that I feel okay to call and talk to, and how many of them are there, and then that's your starting number. But then you're gonna grow it to 200. Now, what happens though if you open up your phone and you got 500 people that you're like, I would feel comfortable calling all 500. Then for there, I would say go through the 500 and pick who you think the 200 best out of that 500 are, and then you could start at 200. But let's just say you go through your list and you got 50, you're gonna start at 50 and grow it as fast as you can. Now, how do you grow it? You're gonna go out and knock on doors, you're gonna make phone calls, anything you do, put ads on the social media, you're gonna get a website, like whatever you're gonna do, you're gonna then just get that as your funnel to funnel people into this group of people here, that what you're gonna do then is grow them into. So you're constantly prospecting. So that would be the idea with Aubrey that I was talking about. As you go knock on doors, you're getting people as leads. Hopefully, you're gonna try to set an appointment with them. But if you can't get an appointment with them, you're gonna stay in touch with them long enough to then go, okay, I need to add them to this select group of people over here, okay? All right, so now I've got that. However many it is to begin with, what the next protocol is you need to have contact with them one time per month, personal, okay? So personal contact with them. You also need to have contact with them one time per month that is either mail or email. And you can do a combination of those. So you can do it, 2 months email and then 1 month you mail them something. You can do it all email. You can do it all mail. Like, it doesn't matter, but what matters is you have one form of personal contact with them once a month and one form of either mail or email to them once a month, and could be any combination of that, okay?
So for personal, do you mean like meeting them like it wouldn't be a phone call, you wanna meet them face
No,
to face?
it could be you could be a phone call.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be that you'd see them face to face. Maybe it's somebody that you go to the gym and you work out and you see them there essentially every day.
Yeah.
Don't talk to them every day about real estate, but once a month have a personal contact with. So you could be face to face in person. Could be, that you see this person at some party or a group function, a church, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. But once a month, or you call them on the phone.
Yeah.
And I will talk about here in a minute, I'm okay with text, but we'll define that a little better in a second. But once a month, some type of personal contact with them. But then one other time a month is either a mail or an email interaction. Okay? Now, so what should we send to them in terms of the mail or an email? The answer is it doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, what matters is that they're getting something from you, either in the mail or an email from you once a month. But I will say to you, my recommendation is one of the things that I had somebody share with me. So what happened is we had a guy come to our real estate office that was trying to sell a software program. And back then you would take the discs and load it onto your computer. But he traveled the whole country and would try to sell these programs. And he came to our office the one day and he said, I am going to give you the very best marketing idea to your sphere of influence. And he said, and none of you are gonna do it. And I was like, okay. Like, I felt like he threw the gauntlet down, like, I'm in. I don't care what he says next, I'm gonna do it. So then what he did is he said to us, or to me, he said it to the office, but for me personally, I felt like he was talking just to me, is he said, send to your sphere of influence every month the homes that are for sale in their neighborhood, under contract or pending in their neighborhood, and the ones that have closed or sold. Every month, just send them, hey, here's what's going on in your neighborhood. And he said, that's the best thing you could send on a monthly basis to the people. And he said, but none of you are gonna do it. Well, I actually did it. And I will tell you, it was the best marketing idea I've ever had, and here's why. What I figured out is when I would start to send to them, and I was doing it mail at that point, is I would mail to the people. So what I did is I had an assistant, and she would go get on the computer, and she would do a search on the MLS. We had a spreadsheet built for every one of these people that was in here, in the group. And she would, so for the first week of every month, she'd spend the entire week going on the MLS, taking that spreadsheet, doing the search from the MLS based on the boundaries we had for that person. She would find the homes that were for sale, the ones that were under contract, and the ones that had sold. And then she would copy and paste those into a Word document, a picture of the house and the square footage, beds, baths, and the price. And then we sent to them that every month. So every month, that's what people got from me. Well, what ended up happening is that people started to call me up and say, Russ, you sold the house 2 doors down for me. Or Russ, you sold, the one lady lived in the La Chapelle condos in Holiday. She would call me, Russ, this is Chris. You sold the condo right next to me and you didn't stop and say hi. Why not? And I would have to say, Chris, I didn't sell it. I'm just letting you know about it. But she called me probably 3 different times before it finally sunk in. And she'd be like, you sold the condo just below me and you didn't come and say hi. And I'd say, Chris, I didn't sell it. I'm just letting you know about it. But then that's when the light bulb clicked on to me, is that these people, when you send this to them of here's what's going on in your neighborhood, they think you're the one selling all those houses. And the ironic thing is, some of those people would drive by the house and they see another agent and company's sign in the front yard, but when they get the email, they assume when it's sold that I sold that house. So it gains this huge amount of trust in these people that you know what's going on in their area and you are the master of the market for their area. So that's why you want to do this. So how would you do that? Because you don't want to do it the way I was doing it. You don't want to have a spreadsheet where you sit and do that. Well, the good news is for you guys, we have a system called Moxie Engage. Inside of Moxie Engage is a tool that's called Neighborhood News. What I would recommend that you do is you get all 200 of these people input into Moxie Engage, and from Moxie Engage, then assign every one of those people to Neighborhood News. And the good news is you just plug in their address into Neighborhood News and it's going to do all the work for you. So you're going to put their address into Neighborhood News, and then Moxie Engage is going to once a month automatically send this email for you. It's just going to send it to them of, hey, here's what's going on in your neighborhood. And it creates for you to be the market expert for those people. Okay? All right, so any questions on what to send? Okay, let's talk about the personal contact then. So in terms of the personal contact, what you want to do is when you call them up, you want to call them and you don't want it to be high pressure, okay? You're just going to call, and so let's just role play, okay? So Dylan, ring.
Hello?
Hey, is this Dylan?
Yeah, it is.
Dylan, Russ Orchard, Century 21, how you doing?
Good, how you doing, Russ?
Good. Hey, I just was giving you that monthly phone call, just checking in to see, did you have any questions about real estate? Anything I can help you with in terms of real estate?
We had a couple of houses we were considering looking at, but it's still something we're wanting to do like 6 months or 8 months down the road.
Okay, so 6 or 8 months down the road. Well, you know what we ought to do though, Dylan? Let's do this. The sooner we get started, the better of a deal you're going to be able to get. So would an afternoon or an evening be better for me to just come and stop by and talk to you a little bit more and show you what we ought to be doing right now?
Evening works better for me.
Okay, boom. So now let's say though that I call you and you're not interested
Okay.
yet. Okay, so I say, hey, this is Russ, just calling to check in to see if you had any real estate questions, anything I could do for you.
Nope, not as of right now.
You're good?
Mhm.
Okay, so you're still getting the email and everything's okay with that?
Yep.
Perfect. Hey, if you do hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling, or you have any questions, you see any real estate you got a question on, make sure you call me.
Okay. Well,
Okay, talk to you later.
bye.
That's it. That's the extent of the call is I am just gonna call and say, hey, just checking in to see if you had any questions, anything I can do for you in terms of real estate? Nope. All right, well, hey, if you hear of anybody thinking about buying or selling, and you could say, do you know of anybody thinking about it? That'd be fine. But if you hear of anybody thinking about it, let me know. Or if you have a question, make sure you give me a call because I want to be your agent for life, whatever. Great. Hang up, that's it. That's the extent of this contact once a month. Now let me explain to you why I recommend 200. So if you have to do that, talk to 200 people once a month, which by the way, I'm kind of on the verge of changing this to saying once a quarter, so you're really only actually having to do it quarterly. Because what I've found is there are some people that once a month almost becomes as overwhelming as the once a week kind of a thing. So just know you can gauge that. If you feel like with that person, hey, once a month might be too much, then going to once a quarter is probably going to be okay. Now, I lost my train of thought of what I was going to say. You walked in and you threw me off.
Threw it in a wrench.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, so if you have 200 people and you had to talk to them once a month, how many people per day does that mean you got to talk to? Let's assume you're going to work 20 days out of the month. You can take some days off. I'm trying to make the math really easy for you.
20 people a day?
10.
10.
So yeah, if you got to talk to them once a month and you're going to work 20 days, that's going to be 10 people per day.
Doi.
What?
It's a doi.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, 10 people, hey, at least dared to say something. Nobody else even dared to say anything. So 10 people a day. The reason that I say if this was 500, now you're all of a sudden like 25 people a day. And I've just found people won't do that. But could you talk to 10 people a day doing what I just did?
Oh yeah.
Like, and how long is that gonna take to call 10 people and be like, hey, just checking in to see if you had any questions, and you need anything?
20 minutes tops.
Yeah, now some people will sometimes say to me, well, it depends, because if you're calling people you know, they might like to chit chat and want to talk. So let me tell you how to handle that. In the event you get somebody that's that way, that I call up, let's say I call you up, Dylan, and you're like, oh, hey, I wanted to talk to you about so-and-so. Did you hear what happened to them? Well, see, if he tries to all of a sudden derail that to where it's like it's going to now turn into a 30-minute conversation, what you want to do is just say, oh, seriously, hey, I do want to hear about that, Dylan, but let me finish doing my business calls. Can I call you back in about an hour and I want to hear all about it? And then they say, yep, great, perfect. Let me finish my business calls, then I'll call you back. So that way I'm kind of distinguishing it as like, this one is just like a business call. So I'm not calling to just chit chat. This is a business call. And you could even say that, hey, just giving you my once a month business call, wanted to check in, see if there's anything you needed. Nope. Okay, have you heard of anybody thinking of buying or selling? Nope. Okay, perfect. And then they go, oh, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something else though that's not related to real estate. Oh, perfect. Let me finish my business calls. I'll call you right back. So, could that work? Okay, perfect. So any questions on how often, what to say, what to mail or email to them? Okay, good. Number 3 then. Number 3 protocol is going to be permission. And I probably really should have done this as number 2. I realized right as I wrote down, contact once a month. But protocol number 3 is you have to have permission from all 200 people. So what that means is you're going to start with the people in your phone. And you want to go through and you're going to call every one of the people in your phone. So you just want to go to your phone, go to your contacts, and you're going to say, okay, I've got in here to call Colby. And I'm going to look at it and go, okay, I got to call Colby. So I call him up. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, Colby, this is Russ Orchard. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Hey, I don't know if you know or not, but like I'm selling real estate. So now, especially where it's you could be like, I don't know if you heard, but I got my real estate license. Now, if you've been selling real estate for a few years, then I would call and say, hey, I just was giving you a call because I'm wanting to change the way I run my business. So for you though, you're going to call and say, I don't know if you heard, but I got my real estate license. And one of the things that I've learned is that the best way to work is by referral. So I'm putting together a select group of people. So any of you guys that are on Zoom that have been licensed longer than just a few months, you want to call those people and say, hey, I'm wanting to change the way I do my business. I want it to be primarily referral dependent, and so I'm putting together a select group of people. So that's the kind of the key words, is you want to say, I'm putting together a select group of people that I'm going to stay in touch with about real estate, and I would like to add you to that list. Would that be okay? And the reason that you're saying I'm putting together a select group of people is you want it to feel special. So I want it to feel like, oh, this is a select group. It's a special group of people, okay? All right. So that's permission. You have to have permission from all 200 people. You can't just look at your phone and go, oh, okay, well, they're now in. Nope, you got to call them and ask for permission to stay in touch with them about real estate. Now, the cool thing is, my experience is usually when people go through and do, when you go through and make those phone calls to get permission, you're going to find a deal or two along the way is what usually will happen. So just so you know. Okay, so we good with permission. Any questions on permission? Okay. Number 4 protocol. So now, first I want to show you, before we get to protocol number 4, or as part of showing you protocol number 4,
Why do you ask for permission, by the way?
why do you get permission?
Yeah. Instead of just calling them up and just kind of, not secretly doing it, but just kind of like, hey.
No, but that is the reason, is I don't want to be a secret agent.
Okay.
So, but here's why, because watch this. Let's say that you're not an agent, and let's say does your wife have any siblings?
Yeah.
Brother, sister, what, both? Okay. Let's just say one of them's an agent, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
So I call you up and I go, so let's role play. So ring, ring.
Oh,
Hey Aubrey, this is Russ, how you doing?
good, Russ, how are you?
Good. Hey, I don't know if you know or not, but I'm selling real estate. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've been doing it for only like 28 years, but
Oh, cool. That's crazy.
I'm just kidding. So, yeah, and I've decided I want to put together a select group of people because I really just want my business to be primarily referral dependent. So I'm going to put together a select group of people and I'd like to add you to that list. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. What do I need to pay for anything or?
No, basically what it means is I'll just give you a call periodically, just check in. I'll send you an email once a month. So let me ask you, if you did hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling, or if you had a need, who would you use?
Especially my brother.
Yeah.
Oh, probably my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay, so if you had a need, you're calling your brother-in-law, not me.
Yeah, he's pretty locked in on real estate and stuff, I guess.
Okay, cool. Well, so it probably doesn't make, well, I guess actually let me ask you this. So if you heard of somebody though thinking of buying or selling, would you be willing to send them to me or do you feel like you gotta send them to him?
I can send it to you if you know.
Okay, so I'm gonna add him to my list then if that's the case. But I'm gonna know at least as of right now, if he's gonna do something in real estate, he's probably not gonna use me. Now, that may change though over time. And the reason is because his brother-in-law is not gonna be providing him with information about real estate. So, but I have to know, there's a pretty good chance if he buys or sells, he's not using me. Even if I give him all the information, even if he starts calling me and, hey, can you check this house out and tell me about this house? It's very likely he's like, now, you remember though, I gotta use my brother-in-law, right? So the reason you wanna do permission is because I want to find out the people who aren't gonna use me. So it's really more about finding out who's not gonna use me than if they are going to use me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because otherwise what happens is I call you up and go, hey, I'm putting together this select group of people and I'd like to add you. Could that be okay? Sure.
Yeah.
So now I add you, I start sending him information and then all of a sudden one day there's a for sale sign in his front yard and it's not mine. And I'm like, what the crap? Like, why did you do that? So the idea behind permission is to give you that chance to say, well, hey, if you had a real estate need, who would you call? And hopefully you say me, and as long as it's me, we're good. If it's somebody else, then I want to deal with it.
Hang up on them.
Yep. So once you have permission too, that's when I'm okay, you could text the person too. You could send a text and say, hey, just doing my monthly check-in, do you have any real estate needs or have you heard of anybody? Nope, okay, well if you do, let me know. And so once you have permission, you can do that.
So in a scenario like that exact same one, how often would you contact someone along those lines? If they have the brother-in-law they're gonna use, but they might send you referrals every once in a while.
Good question. So the answer to that question is, to begin with, think of it this way. The barrier to entry, let's say you only have 50 people.
Yeah.
If he says he'll refer people to you, he's going in.
Okay.
But, which this is actually reminding me, I left one piece out. So what happens though when I hit 200 and you go knock on doors and Colby's like, yeah, sure, you can add me to your list. Like, we're actually thinking we might do something in the next little while. Well, now all of a sudden you got 201.
Yeah.
So what do you have to do?
Find one that's not as important.
And so the first place I would go is
Brother-in-law.
somebody who's like, yeah, but I have to use my brother-in-law. In fact, he might even have said to you, I'll refer them to you and my brother-in-law and then they can choose. Okay, I'll put him in this group until I hit 201 and then he's probably the first one out.
Okay.
Unless there's somebody worse than him, then I'll get rid of him. But to some extent, that is what it is.
So how often would you contact somebody like that? Would you do like once a quarter? Or I just didn't know, since they're obviously not gonna look and they'll send you referrals every once in a while.
So yeah, great question. To begin with, you want to do once a month.
Yeah.
I would do it once a month. Once I can tell, and the reason why of that, by the way, is the shelf life of him remembering you're an agent, the first time you call them is over the moment he hangs up the phone. No, like for real, like he will say, yep, if I have a need, I'll call you. You'll hang up the phone and then tomorrow morning he might hear of somebody at work thinking about buying or selling and he'll be like, oh, that's awesome. He forgotten about you already.
Yeah.
But after you've done it a few times, call them, every time you call them, the shelf life lasts longer and longer. So for me, I want to do it more often to begin with, because eventually I will get to the point where like, yeah, they know who I am, and you just gonna have to kind of judge that based on how your interactions go. But yeah, then somebody like that where they're like, yeah, we're really not thinking about doing anything. Great, I'll just call you once a month then. Once a quarter. So
And that's true. One thing I've noticed too, especially with like calling my SOI, is like when I add someone to it, the first time I contact them, it was a door knock or a call. Like the next time I call them, like, hey, it's Aubrey. I have to like basically start over again. And then like I think maybe 7 times I've called them or whatever, 7 contacts. I call them. I say, hey Aubrey.
Yep.
They're like, oh hey, how's it going? It's kind of cool to get that. When yesterday morning I called somebody on her. Called her for like weeks, and she just say, "Hey Aubrey," but now this time I called her, I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" She's like, "Who is this?" Dang it! She's
like, start over.
Yeah. Well, she started signing contracts with somebody, so she deleted my number. So I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." But she was like, "Oh, I remember you, Aubrey," but still remember me. Yeah.
She had deleted your number because she, yeah.
That's fine to happen. So
Yeah, it happens.
that's an indicator. If you hear just somebody say, "Hey Aubrey," it's all they're good. But they're like, "Hello."
Yeah, if they act at all like they don't know who you are, I would still, and here's the other thing I would probably look for too. If that happens where they're like, who are you again? Like you're starting fresh again, you might even want to mail them like a personal note. Hey, thanks for talking to me today. Here's a business card. Like something to try to you're just trying to get that to where you're going to be top of memory rather than buried. But like I say, that the initial time you hang up, they've forgotten you're an agent. If they hear tomorrow somebody going, do you know anybody that sells real estate? Nope, I have no idea. Even though just yesterday they told you they would. Like that's how long the shelf life is, okay? All right, next then. So now, the next piece of this, let me show you, we're gonna go through and show you how this works. So let's say, just for the ease of numbers, we're gonna do this and say that I have 100 people, okay? Now, from that 100 people, let's just say 50 of them are red, and I'll define what that means in a second. 50 are green, although you probably have somewhat of an idea. So 50 are red, 50 are green. Red is going to be people that are not going to use you or refer business to you. Green is people who will, okay? Now, so let's say out of the 100 that I have, 50 are red and 50 are green. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, why would I have anybody in there if they say they're never, if I think they're never going to refer to me. Now, so the truth is, you believe all 100 are going to, but if you had a crystal ball and could see into the future, you would find that 50 were going to and 50 weren't, okay? Which would be awesome, but we don't have that. So we have to assume that everyone is green. So I want to make sure I'm clear on that. Our assumption is everyone is green. But if we could give them some truth serum, you would find that a percentage, and I don't know what the percentage is going to be, it's going to vary for each person, but there's a percentage of them that are telling you, yes, I would use you, but they're really actually not going to use you. Does that make sense? Now, the reason for that is because people lie. And it is easy to get people to lie. It's hard to get people to tell you the truth. Now, so meaning I might go and knock on Aubrey's door and he might talk to me and I might say, now keep in mind, if I'm knocking on doors, my primary objective is to set an appointment. But let's say that I can't get him to agree to an appointment. So he doesn't agree to the appointment, then I want to add him to this select group of people. So when you're door knocking, which I don't know if you've incorporated this yet, but if you haven't, then do. Your primary objective is to set an appointment. But if I can't get an appointment, then before you leave their door, say, I've got a select, are you doing that?
Yeah.
I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with. Okay, good. So I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with when I add you to the list. He might say yes to me just to get me off of his doorstep. And those are gonna be the ones that I think they're green. But as I start calling month after month after month, and every month, like, in fact, I had a for sale by owner, speaking of that, who is this? Like, probably the first, I don't know if it really was the first, but one of the first for sale by owners I ever talked to as an agent. I had knocked on her door, no, I called her. I called her on the phone, she was in West Jordan. Called her on the phone, talked to her, she said she had built a house right behind her, and so she was gonna move into that house. Or she was building that house, but it was for sale by owner. I called her every month because the house was she was like, I'm not gonna actually sell it until I move in and it's still being built. So I was calling her once a month for a long time. Well, then I transitioned eventually to once a week. But every single time I called her was like a first phone call. Now, who's this again? And I'd be like, this is Russ. And like, I actually even went and knocked on her door, met her face to face. But every time I called her, it was like, who's this again? Who's this again? Like, that person is red, just so you know. But we have a tendency to want people to be green. So either they lie to us because they just want us to get off this doorstep, or they just don't want to tell you no. They just want to be nice, so they'll do it that way too. All right, so some of these people are red, some are green. So let's say now that I go knock on doors, and let's say that I get 10 leads. So let's use from yours, if you knocked on 10 doors and got 10 leads, how many of those will turn into a transaction in the next year versus of those leads wouldn't, out of 10, would you say? Just, and I don't care, just make it up.
1.
Okay, so I'm gonna say 3, we could do 1.
Okay.
This would work doing 1,
Yeah.
but it'll just take us a lot longer. So I'm gonna say 3, just for the sake of making this not have to go through it so much. So, okay, so what happens then is I get 10 leads. And now remember, I believe that all 10 of them are green, but 7 of them are gonna end up being red. I just don't know which 7. So I have to add all 10 because I don't know which 7. Make sense? So, but if I had a crystal ball and could look into the future, I would find.
I thought you meant people contacts. So lead, like actual people I'm putting in my sphere of influence.
Well, I'm just saying, if you got 10 leads.
Okay. I thought you meant
10
like people that.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, we could say 10 that you put into here.
Okay, so yeah, if I get 10 leads,
Yeah.
half of them are stuff.
Oh, half. Okay.
I'm not wasting time with people that are like, ooh.
Okay, I'm still gonna go with
Yeah.
3, only
Okay.
because if we do half, then the numbers aren't it's not gonna prove we could do it, but it'll be easier to do 3. Okay, so I add 7 people, 10. I add 10, but if we could have a crystal ball and could see in the future, we would see that 7 of them end up being red. So I now have 57 people there. We added 3 that were green. So now I have 53 here. So how many total people do I have?
60.
What?
Wait,
100.
wait, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the.
You guys are doing podcast math.
I thought you meant like other thing.
No.
I haven't had lunch yet.
These 2 added together.
Yeah, sorry.
110, right?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay, so now somebody get out their calculator, because I'm not relying on you guys. Divide 57 into 110. This is why I didn't do 5 and 5, because it still would be 50% if you did 5 and 5. So what percentage? Probably like 48% or something.
57 into
110.
110?
Yeah.
Yeah, 51.8.
51.8, okay. So we'll just round it up and say it's 52%, which means that this side is at 48%. So what just happened? So now, which, by the way, this is how an open system works. This is why most agents, the way they work their sphere of influence doesn't work, is because they do it as an open system. So what just happened?
Your percentage for the revival ones went down.
Yeah, so first thing is, yes, first thing though is the workload increased by 10% to get 2% less. So I'm getting worse people that are lower number of people, but I have to work harder to get less. Does that make sense? So now, because the protocol has to be fixed in size, then what has to happen is in order to keep this, remember, we're saying we're doing 100 for now, really, once we're assuming we've already built it, but I can only have a fixed in size number of 100, so what do I have to do?
Get rid of people.
Yeah, I gotta get rid of 10 people. So do I wanna get rid of any of these? No. So what I'm gonna get rid of then now, 10 people here. So I minus 10, so I'm now at 47 here, 53 here, which means I'm back to 100 total. And look what happened now. 53%, 47%. So now I have the same amount of work each month, and I just increase the percentage. So what happens, let's reverse it now, and let's say we did it again, I got another 110, or 100 people, sorry, 10 people, but let's just say we got really lucky this week, and 7 of them were green. So now we're at 60. 3 of them were red, so now we're at 50. So we have a total again of 110, but we can't do that, so we gotta get rid of 10. So we're of course gonna come over here and subtract 10 here. So now I've got 40 here, 60 here. My percentage is 60%, 40%. What's gonna happen if I keep doing that month after month?
Percentage increases.
Yeah, theoretically, I should get to 100% here and 0 here. Now, I will tell you, you're probably never gonna get to that point. And the reason being, people die, they move out of state. Like, one of the best people I ever had in my SOI for this, that was the best person referring people to me, called me one day and was like, we need to sell our house, we're moving to Idaho. Like, I would guess in a year, I would do 6 or 7 deals from just people she gave to me.
Wow.
So her moving was great, like I got paid for them moving, but I lost somebody who referred me 6 or 7 deals every year. Like,
You talk to them? You talk to them at all? Or?
yeah, they now live in, they went from Idaho they went from Idaho to Logan. And then here's the worst part, is this was my best friend growing up and his wife. But his wife was the one who would refer the people to me, not him. But they lived in Logan, he got a job transfer to Minnesota, and they listed their house with Jeanette Davis.
Oh.
And I called him up, I was like, what the? And he's like, well, he works for the church was transferring him. He's like, they told me I had to use one of their agents. And I'm like, yeah, that comes through my company. And I'm the principal broker. Like, I could have been my best friend. So the good news is, now I talk to him and he's like, we come back, you're our guy. And I'm like, yeah. So part of that is, though, my own fault because I wasn't staying in touch. See, if you're staying in touch with these people, when that happened and he found out, he would have been like, hey, we might be moving. And then I would have been like, oh, well, make sure you let me know. And then he would have said, well, we have to use an agent through my work. Yep, that's us. Comes through our relocation department. It will be us. So, okay, so you can see, though, you're probably never going to get to 100% just because people die, they move out of state, whatever. You're going to be constantly, actually, sometimes. So I used to, in the class, when I would teach this, I would bring up the agent who I taught that does this the best. Her name is Tony Messina. And it used to be, I've had 3 different times that I've been teaching a class and I say that, and they're like, wait a minute, I was in this group for her, and that now they're an agent. So sometimes what happens is some of these people start referring people to you like crazy, and when I say like crazy, like the lady that was referring to me, and they realize, hey, if I had my license, I could be making the money off those 6 transactions. And so they go get their real estate license. When that happens, they're not using you anymore, or referring to you anymore. So that's why I say you're probably never going to hit 100% here, because people die, they're going to move, they're going to get their real estate license, whatever. So, but the idea is, once you hit 60% of the people that are green, is when I will tell you you've hit this point here. And so your objective right now is to get to 200 people. Once you get to 200, now you're trying to get rid of the ones who aren't going to refer and do business with you to replace them with people who will. See, that's all I'm doing here, is I'm taking this 200 people and refining it. Like the barrier to entry initially to getting into the 200 is like, are you breathing? Yep, you can fit in. But over time, it's like, hey, I've got, 60 people, or let's do the numbers on this at a 260%. I've got 120 people who are referring business to me. Like, do I really need somebody who just says, yeah, I'll go in your group? Yeah, like that Tony Messina that I told you about, to get into her group, once she matured this, she dropped the number to 97. And of the 97, it was like, if you wanted to get into that group of 97, you pretty much had to refer somebody to her first in order to even get into that group. Does that make sense? Good. The other thing that I will tell you that you want to do is, anytime that one of these people does refer someone to you, how much can you give to somebody, pay somebody for an unsolicited referral?
$250,000.
Minus the 1,000, 250.
I mean, if I can do that, that means that's gonna be a lot of business.
Yeah, 250, yeah, if you did 250,000, I'd be referring to you. So, and I'd refer a lot of people to you. Yeah, $250. So keep in mind, like, when people in this group do give you a referral, give them something, like go get a Cold Stone gift card from over here and give them a $15 to Cold Stone. Hey, thanks for thinking of me. And then if you go and actually list somebody's house, send them another gift card to maybe Chili's or to Cheesecake Factory or something. Hey, thanks for referring me. Then when you close on the deal, go get a Ruth's Chris $150 gift card and send it to them and say, thank you for referring those people to me. I really appreciate it. Like, how many times are you going to do that before people realize, man, heck yeah, we got to go. I want to go to Ruth's Chris. Let's go find somebody to refer to Aubrey so that we can go to dinner again. He pays for it. Like, now, remember, it has to be for an unsolicited. So you can't call people and be like, hey, if you refer somebody to me and I close, I'll give you $250. Can't do that. So anyway, all right, last piece of this. So let me run the numbers here to show you now why I say you can make so much money from it.
Really quick, Russ, are you doing that? You can do that.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you this now.
Go ahead.
So can you advertise, not advertise, but like, if, like, say for instance, I have a client that refers to business, can you put it on social media, like, hey, giving this person some money for referring business, can you do something like that or no? It's not directly saying, hey, every time you do this, I'm gonna give you this, but I just said, oh, this person referring business, and I'm giving them a cool present. I help my clients out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably could. I don't know if I would. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you could do it.
No. I'll do.
I was gonna say.
Before I post it,
I was gonna say, yeah, create whatever you're gonna do and let me look at it first
Okay.
before, because I think it's a pretty fine line because the moment somebody, my only hesitation on it is if I saw that and I called you up and said, so wait, if I refer somebody to you, you're gonna give me $150 or $200 or something to Ruth's Chris? Now you can't.
Dang it.
That's the only thing that's the challenge. So you almost want to reward the behavior, but it has to be unsolicited. So I guess that's the key way I would answer your question is it has to be unsolicited. So if I called you and said, so if I refer somebody to you, I get one of those? Nope. Can't.
Nope.
I can't now. That's my only hesitation. Okay, so if I have 200 people and I'm telling you want to get it to 60%. 60% is when you can count on you're going to really make money from this. That would be 120 people, okay, that are green. Now remember, for me, green is somebody who's either going to do business with me or refer business to me. So if you got, in fact, let's actually try to use some of Aubrey's numbers. If you, from people in your SOI, they referred you, if you got 100, well, let me forget that even, just what percentage of the referrals that you've gotten turn into a deal? Any idea?
Probably like, it's like pretty high. It's like
Pretty high.
Yeah, it's like crazy high.
Okay, if somebody on Zoom wants
90%.
to say two.
Yeah, I was like 90% of the least. I had one person not go through this, couldn't afford meeting.
Okay.
So, but the rest of them have.
So all of them have, so 90%, but we're not gonna do that because I don't wanna scare you guys too much. So we're gonna just say 50%. What if 50%, I mean, is that realistic to say? 50%?
If I had 120 people being referred to me, yeah.
Okay, so that would be 60. Of the people that then get referred to you, how many, well, you already said all of them, 90, this is where I would go to probably the 90%. Probably 90% are gonna close. But let's just be conservative. Let's say what if only 50% of those that they referred to you closed? That's gonna be 30 transactions. What's our average commission? 10 grand? I mean, it's probably higher than
Probably
that
more than
now.
that. Depends on your.
But just to keep it realistic, I mean, numbers easy. That's $300,000. Which is more than 200, like I said. I mean, so look at that. If you could just get 200 people in there that have said, yes, they'll refer to business with you or do business with you. If only 120 of them, meaning 60% actually did it, that would be 120. If only half of those turned into an appointment even, is 60, and if half of those actually turned into a transaction, is 30 deals times 10,000. So, can you see why I would say to you, I will guarantee you if you'll just do this, which, so I left out protocol number 4. So protocol number 4, and I shouldn't have erased the board, but protocol number 4 is you're looking for the red. So really the purpose of you calling this once a month, the purpose of you calling is you're trying to find the red. Remember, red is people who are not going to do business with you or refer business to you. So the purpose of the call is to find the red, not the green, which is counterintuitive to what you would think. You would think the reason you're calling is to try to get an appointment. No, I'm trying to find out who I can get rid of. Because if I can figure out, because remember, it's hard to get people to tell the truth. It's easy to get people to lie. If I can find the ones who are never going to do business with me or refer and get rid of them, anybody I replace them with is going to be better. Anybody. So you're calling trying to find the red so that you can get rid of them. So if I call and Aubrey acts like he is not interested in talking to me at all, or let's say that 7 months later he's still doing the, who's this again? Now, how did we meet? What? Who are you? I might go, okay, he's red. But if I'm calling trying to find the green, I'm gonna continue to be like, remember you came to that open house and it was the house that had the pink toilet and the blah. Oh yeah, I remember that. Okay, well, so is there anything I can do for you? Nope. Okay, well, I'll call you next month. And you just keep doing that. But if you're looking for red, you pretty soon go, hey, are you still okay with me calling you?
No.
Yeah, they may be hesitant, but as soon as he hesitates, I'm gonna be like, you know what, I actually I'm gonna send you a card. If you have a real estate need, let me know, but outside of that, I'm not gonna call and bug you anymore. Okay, bye. And I should celebrate that because I just found a red. And anybody I replace him with is gonna be better. That's what we're trying to do, is slowly raise the bar on all these things.
And not waste your time spending time with people that aren't going to use you.
Yeah.
If they do anything.
That's right. So, does that make sense? Okay, any other questions? All right, who's gonna do it now?
I am.
Okay, good.
Yes, I will.
Okay, yeah, and I'm happy to help answer other questions, whatever, but I promise you, if you will go do these 4 things, but remember, you gotta do it exact. Like, you can't go, oh, well, I got 205 people, or like, no. You gotta keep it at 200, and you do that by getting rid of the red. So you wanna keep adding people, or you're looking at least to add people, and so think of it this way. Every time, once I get to 200 and I go knock on Aubrey's door, I'm really just trying to evaluate, is he gonna be better than any of these other 200? And if the answer is yes, I wanna add him and get rid of whoever the worst one is. You're just constantly getting rid of the worst one you have, always. Just every time you find a lead, who can I get rid of? And now, we don't wanna convince people to be red at the same time, but I'm trying to find the ones that aren't gonna refer business or do business with me and get rid of them and replace them with someone. I mean, imagine if you had 200 people like the lady that my best friend's wife cut my hair, and every time she'd cut my hair, she'd tell me about somebody else that was gonna be buying or selling. I mean, imagine if you had 200 people that were constantly like out looking for business for you. Like, can you see how much, it's crazy.
So you're saying I need to grow some hair.
Yes, you should grow some hair to get hair. So anyway, all right, cool. Thanks for being here. So no class on Thursdays, 4th of July. And then I actually might have an issue next Tuesday with the class. So I will, if we're gonna have a class next Tuesday, you'll get an email. If you don't get an email, then my conflict was not resolved. So, anyway. Okay, thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you, Russ.
Welcome.
Sorry I missed half the class.
Hey,
I'm writing an offer now.
He's a busy man.
That's what you always do. But I'm just grateful that you come, so.
Yeah. I'm writing an offer now because of this.